South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham faced an angry crowd on Columbus Day at a town hall meeting packed with libertarians and Tea Party activists. The senator said, quote, "We're not going to be the party of angry white guys." Some of his comments were met with shouts of Ron Paul, Ron Paul, Ron Paul. Senator Graham responded by saying, "I'm not going to let it," referring to the Republican Party, "be hijacked by Ron Paul." Wow. It's now my pleasure to introduce the object of Senator Graham's wrath. One of America's great defenders of freedom and liberty today, Congressman Ron Paul, joins us from our nation's capital. He is, of course, the author of the New York Times bestseller, End the Fed. Congressman Paul, welcome back to Freedom Watch.
Thank you, Judge. Nice to be with you.
Thank you. So what is Senator Lindsey Graham worried about? Why is he so afraid of you, Congressman Paul?
I don't know. I guess we'll have to ask him, but he does seem to be overreacting. But the other question that somebody might ask him is who does set the standards for the party? Is if he doesn't like what I'm talking about, does that mean he gets to set the standards and new people can't come in because they take a different position than the neoconservatives? I mean, I think there should be room in the Republican Party for traditional conservative constitutionalists, and that's what I call myself. So I don't know why he would want to exclude us, especially since there's a grand appeal to many young people. And right now, the average Republican doesn't appeal to college kids. So I think he should be asked these questions because I can't look into his mind and say what's going on.
I don't know how the George Bush, John McCain, Lindsey Graham version of the Republican Party can even make an argument that it is faithful to first principles like the Constitution, like limited government, like individual freedom, and like the free market. I don't even know how they can make that case for themselves.
No, they vote for big spending, and their foreign policy is very, very old-fashioned. It's part of the Democratic Party of pursuing war needlessly, going to war without declaration, subsidizing the military-industrial complex, not caring about personal liberties, endorsing programs like the Patriot Act, and not being concerned about protection of all individual rights as the Constitution does. So I don't know why they should have a monopoly control of the Republican Party. Maybe the fact that that's their position is the reason the Republican Party hasn't done in the last several elections. The
Republican Party seems to be, or at least the Lindsey Graham, John McCain's, from whom I hear, not you, backing up General McChrystal's urgings on the president to commence a massive land war or to increase the massive land war in Afghanistan. Haven't we learned any lessons from recent history?
Well, I don't think we've learned the recent history, but I don't think we've learned ancient history, too. You know, Afghanistan has essentially never been conquered. It's run by tribes. They don't seem to want to move in the modern world. But if they're not attacking us, they haven't invaded our country. The Taliban, for instance, is incapable of attacking anybody. They just want to be left alone. Just because we don't like their lifestyle and we don't think they're doing the right thing, and maybe because we want to put a gas pipeline through their country, all these things add up to us being very much involved there. So yes, here we have the so-called neoconservatives. If they are going to give us the conservative credentials, they're supporting Obama. They want Obama not only to continue it, but they want him to even do more. So there is a mixed message there.
You know, in this coming Sunday's New York Times Magazine, there's an interview with General Stanley McChrystal, and I got a little sneak peek of it, and I think they caught him off guard, perhaps in if you'll forgive me, an unguarded moment when they said to him, if the government of Afghanistan is illegitimate, if it's based on a fraud, if it's not even based on lawful, accurate elections, how can we justify our presence there? And he said, well, maybe we'll be an unwelcome guest. How can we even legally be there? There isn't even any real government, whether it's fraudulent or not, of that country, is there?
No, and that would be a major point, but even if you hid behind some legalese document and say, oh, Karzai asked us to be there. The whole thing is the people don't want us there. They see it as occupiers. They did not strike out against us. This whole idea that the Taliban is the culprit and the enemy, that's just not the case. And then we go and we chase them around. We chase them over in Pakistan, and now we're using that as a justification to go to war in Pakistan. We send money into Pakistan. So what have we done? We've caused chaos in that country. We have the civilian government against the military government, and now we're actually looking like what we're trying to really do is go in there and get control of their nuclear weapons. I mean, you talk about provoking people, and this is supposed to be from an administration that was going to speak more softly. They might speak more softly, but you got to look at the actions, and right now the actions are every bit as militant as they were in the previous administration.
Congressman Paul, why should we end the Federal Reserve?
Because it facilitates these kind of programs that we're pursuing overseas. It facilitates war when the people don't endorse the war. We don't declare the war. We can't afford it. If we had to tax the people, they wouldn't pay the taxes. But it also facilitates all the spending here at home. It facilitates deficits. It facilitates a corrupt system where the Federal Reserve, behind the scenes, can bail out their buddies. They don't even want their books looked at to find out who has benefited by their actions. And they deal in trillions and trillions of dollars. They actually can subsidize foreign governments and foreign central banks to do their bidding. So it's time for the American people to find out why government is out of control and why and how it's related to the Federal Reserve system.
Are you optimistic that your legislation, which seems to be getting more and more co-sponsors with every tick of the clock, will likely pass in a form and style and manner that will facilitate a real, true, open audit of the Federal Reserve?
I think the odds are pretty good that something will be passed that would give us the authority to do an adequate audit. That doesn't mean that we'll end up with an adequate audit, because the Federal Reserve and the powers to be will fight it tooth and nails. They're going to take it through the courts, just as they're taking through the suits against the Federal Reserve on the Freedom of Information Act. They're just tied up in the courts. They'll tie this legislation up in the courts, and unfortunately the courts have always ruled in favor of the state over the people when it comes to monetary matters.
Yes, you're right. The courts have this wacky principle, and I don't even know where it came from. You know, I've studied this all of my adult life, that we will assume that the Congress's judgment is correct on matters of economics, whether it violates the Constitution or not. If Congress made this economic decision to transfer wealth from here to there, or to give this power from the elected representatives to a super secret bank, we're not going to get involved.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the case. We don't have very many constitutionalists in our Supreme Court over the many years.
Congressman Paul, thanks very much. Thanks for joining us on Freedom Watch.
Thank you, Judge.
You can catch today's show on foxnews.com/freedomwatch and on Sirius 145, XM 168, or online at foxnewstalk.com at 6 p.m. Eastern on Saturdays. From New York, defending freedom. Until the next time, stay free.